उसने बुलाया बहुत था पर मैं आज ही आया हूँ। कहता दूसरे एपिसोड में बुलाएगा, मैंने कहा नहीं, पहले मैं आऊंगा, बैठ के जाऊंगा. Voice artist will dub a film and then a regional actor's voice will be used as a skin to be placed on this. So they don't have to learn the language, they just have to give a sample of it.
Wow, no pressure guys, no pressure. First episode, no pressure. But with that being said, I want to jump right into it.
Let's not lie to ourselves, it is here. It's taking work and it's evolving at the blink of an eye. Thank you मेरे साथ बैठने के लिए first row के first episode में.
Hi Sanket and welcome to the first episode of First Row with Hardik Vaidya.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
We've been chatting across the years.
Yes.
We were also on the earlier podcast as well.
Yes.
And we've jumped into this one, and this one is an independent show that I'm starting, and I'm very, very glad that I could be starting off this with you.
It's an absolute honor to be here, and congratulations and all the best, because I know, when you asked me about the podcast, I know I immediately said yes, because even the first one that we had, there's a lot of these interesting insights that you probe into when learning about an industry. There's a lot of research that you come with, and it's really refreshing to talk about topics that are not just the conventional questions that are asked to me, which is why I really enjoy our conversations, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you so much for making me a part of this.
Wow, no pressure guys, no pressure. First episode, no pressure. But with that being said, I want to jump right into it.
Absolutely.
You've had an artist to creator journey.
Right.
I think I saw you last when 49K is when you were on Instagram, and now you are
Yes.
blowing up upwards of 400K and
Yeah.
hopefully million very, very soon. But this journey has been rather interesting because earlier I remember you posting so much of voicing material.
Right.
Now it's become more of a creator hat.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this journey.
Honestly, the journey for posting on social media began when a lot of people from the industry started telling me that why are you not on social media. Up till that point, I had never felt the need for it. The industry that way is quite small within Mumbai, and people know who they need to call for a certain kind of voice. Even if auditions happen, they know that these are the 4 artists that will fit in this range. Let's call them. So it was never about posting for people or posting to attract work. That was never on the top of our heads. But there was this day that I met one of the creative directors from Warner who invited me for Detective Pikachu premiere, and he said, why are you not on social media? We get these comments where everybody's like Sanket Mhatre, they're calling you out by name on social media. Why are you not on social media? Why can't they just write to you? And that's when it clicked me, and it's something that we've spoken about, that I wish that there was a way that I could kind of talk to my seniors so freely, because I can never do it in real life. Even now, even if there's a junior that wants to approach, or I want to talk to somebody, by nature, I'm an introvert, so I wouldn't go up to them, and I would want to ask this question. I would die inside, but I would never kind of have that courage to. But on a platform like this, where I can ask them, that scene that you've done, it was brilliant. How did you do it? What was the thought that you, and then maybe apply that to my craft. And so I thought maybe I should start something. And so I did, and when you start posting, you understand that there are a lot of these things that you need to obey in terms of social media rules. You can't just post content; it gets violated.
Yeah.
There's copyright stuff. Then I started, when there was lockdown, I kind of said, what do we do? We're kind of, it's minimal work that we're doing. Artists who have setups at home are the only ones kind of doing something. And I got a lot of messages saying, we don't have a studio, we can't get out of our house, there's no work in our town, what do we do, how do we? So I said, let's just take this time to build ourselves up again, and let me also start from zero. Because I really wish that there was a way to eliminate those 4-5 years of struggle that we kind of end up doing when we enter the industry, where simple things like you have to say fir or phir kind of get clarified as you sit on the mic, and the engineer or the director corrects you. What if somebody told us that you started off with that kind of knowledge? Wouldn't that help you accelerate? I always try to find new ways to just chronicle my work, maybe not for other people, but more so for myself as well, to understand. Because honestly speaking, there are days when imposter syndrome hits hard. And then you open this thing and that you've done something. You've done some work. So it's basically like a dear diary. My Instagram is like my dear diary, where I'm just putting in things and people are enjoying it. And then slowly the numbers started building up. It's been its own thing. I've never wanted to push it in some direction or the other, because I don't understand social media that way. I did it in a way that I enjoyed it, and thankfully that content got picked up. And then I got into this thing of let's make a Bear Grylls video because people are requesting that, or let's make a dubbing video because people really enjoy that. Then some Ben 10 video blew up and went viral. Numbers flew, and then brands started talking about it, and then I got a couple of things that went in my way that way. But it was not something that was planned.
So a couple of things to unpack here. One is this, that your objective was not to actually gain traction. It was just you putting yourself out there. So that's one I think it's a great standout point for me, because in the rush to get numbers, you're trying to find like an creator content fit.
Yes.
And perhaps you try so many things.
It's then a forced content that sort of kills it also for you. Also, honestly, I wish that I had known that maybe starting this off earlier would be a good thing. Because although I did not start it with the intention of getting work did come. There are many clients out there who don't know how to access a voice artist. So they would generally search in Google and say, I voice artist English, or voice artist comedy or funny or something, some word
and
that they would Google.
And
if your profile pops up, they're messaging you. And there have been so many of these clients that I've gathered over the years that have kind of stuck around, and they said, we just kind of searched and your Instagram popped up and we saw and we liked it and it was fun, and so we approached you for this. Which otherwise would not have happened. So that's just like an additional array of work that came my way, and that was really interesting work, because there was a lot of this gaming work or sort of Japanese collaborations that happened via Instagram that wouldn't have happened in my day-to-day, me going from my house to a studio in Andheri, coming back home. This would not have happened.
Absolutely.
So it's been a bonus on all fronts for me.
One of the things that I think of as a starter creator, someone who's actually wearing the artist hat, but is sort of in that place where more out of compulsion, but not more out of wanting. So when they want to do it out of compulsion, they feel that maybe I'm too late in the process. But if they want it out of just the sheer way you did it, right? I just want to put it out.
Correct.
Whether it leads to something or not is the byproduct. But you put yourself out there.
Right.
The organic part is just growth.
Absolutely. I never got bogged down by numbers. I think that the day the numbers start affecting you is the day everything goes haywire. When you start following the numbers and you realize, oh, this is the amount of likes that were coming, they are not now, then now I should use another direction. Oh my God, the followers have gone down. Sometimes Instagram does this clean sweep of bots or whatever, and you suddenly wake up with 20,000 lesser followers. And if that kind of jolts you into doing some other things, it's going to play havoc, because my work is in the studio. This is something that,
That's the thing I want to focus on. So I think when people who are predominantly creator first, who made their identity online, for them this becomes
This is everything, yes.
But I think for performers, they lived outside of the digital world, and this happens to be sort of an extension to what they do. I think the approach has been very, very different. I was talking on a panel where I was speaking with musicians, and musicians were of the opinion that we hate doing promotions of music, which I can completely understand, because their bread and butter is actual performance.
Right.
It's not creating reels.
Absolutely.
Right. While reels has its own potential.
But
as an offshoot to what they do, they started putting out that material, like chalo ye reel डालते हैं BTS का, or do some work that they're already performing. That started taking up, and the organic numbers sort of start pushing up. But I think the approach is first of putting yourself out, the authentic yourself out. Has that been the approach as well that you would recommend for people to?
So honestly speaking, always put yourself out there first. Make content that is 100% relatable to you and is you. And it slowly, you will see it change the industry in a way. There was a time when, and that time still exists, honestly speaking, where a lot of celebrities are roped in to create a certain response for a project. And it's always happened that, voiceover artists have been replaced over time. But
Deadpool being the example.
Deadpool is one of those examples, but there are so many voice artists whose work has been taken away, or who've just been replaced by celebrity with a better marketing call, so to say. What's changing now is more and more artists are on social media. More and more fans know the name of the voice that they liked. So when they're calling out and saying change the voice, they're not just saying change the voice, they're saying change the voice to this artist. Now there has been a wave of where companies have started including voiceover artists in their promotional activities, and it's been happening over the past couple of years. They're understanding how voiceover artists have now a face on social media, and that face is as valuable as roping in a celebrity for a lot of projects, and that's sort of a huge change. I honestly speak to a lot of seniors, and I understand that this is something that they sort of feel that they missed out on, you know, the kind of the kind of fame that's coming in because of social media. But like you said, they can still start. There are still people who message saying, you know, that voice that was there 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or that character, that artist, where are they? Or why? How can we reach them? There are still messages like that that do come in, and so honestly speaking, getting on social media and maybe not going down this tunnel of I need to create something every day is still okay, but get on social media, because there are a lot of people waiting to talk to you, to connect with you.
The important point that I'm trying to understand here is that I start, let's say, 5 years later.
Right.
Someone has got a 5-year head start to
Yes.
me. In the pandemic, I did not understand maybe.
Yes.
And I couldn't start, for example.
Yes.
I felt that बहुत competition है, right? I'm too late in the process. What would you say to someone who's coming from that viewpoint that there are already people creating similar content? What voice or difference will I be able to add in the ecosystem?
As a voice artist, there are already people who are voicing in your range. There have been people who've been voicing in this industry for the past 30 years, 20 years. You know, what is the need of you entering that market and giving your voice? Why do you think you will make a difference? You will, because there will always be something that you'll bring to the table that those people didn't bring, or it might be something that's different from what they were bringing. And when you start voicing, you realize there is a place for you. You will make that place for yourself, as long as you're true to the craft and you kind of work on yourself and you're honest about your craft. You understand your shortcomings, you work on them. There will always be an arc of improvement that people around you will also start to see, that will lead to you getting more projects, that will lead to you getting bigger projects, that will lead to people respecting you for the kind of work you do. And that is a slow arc, but it is a sure arc. And that's the same way with social media. It doesn't matter if somebody started 20 years before you. What matters is when you're entering it, are you doing it out of happiness? Does it give you joy? Are you putting out things that you want to share with the world on a positive side? Or it's just something that you think is another part of this job that I need to do? Because believe me, as a voice artist, there are many aspects of my work that I don't want to do.
Right.
The billing on paper, the tax frustration,
Talk about it.
the understanding how to network when you can't talk to the person next to you, without getting that introverted person, move that to the corner. And so there are so many aspects of the voicing game but what I tell myself every time something like that happens is, why am I here? I want to voice. It's what brings me so much joy. The next character that I'm going to do, the next project that I'm going to work on, what can I do differently, or whatever it is, then yeah, okay, let's figure out the tax thing. Okay, let's figure out the billing thing. Let me talk to that person, because if that leads to that project, it'll help.
So it's essentially centrally connected to one art form.
Correct.
That's where everything connects to, right?
Correct.
Whether you are running,
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
dancing, everything has a voice angle.
Yes.
So one central element works best for your page.
For me, yeah, for my page. Because honestly speaking, मैं creator नहीं हूँ. I can't think in many directions, at least when putting out social media content. So what best can I think in direction of is voice, because that's what I'm doing day in and day out. And honestly speaking, I'm enjoying it. So when it's coming from a happy space, I can create content around it, and I'm still enjoying it. It's not work right now. But it can get into work if there are brand deals that come in maybe, or there are projects that you're doing back to back which are like I said, many aspects of voicing that you wouldn't enjoy as many as the others. Like there are some people who really enjoy the documentary aspect of it, or maybe corporate voiceovers.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of corporate voiceovers. I'm a big fan of dubbing for movies and series, stuff like that. But I do enjoy the occasional corporate voiceover when it comes in, because it helps you do your use your craft in another direction for a bit of time. So वैसा है. Even with social media, that's the same thing. As long as it's coming from a happy place, I know I'm enjoying it. I'll keep doing it. It was never about numbers. So कल को कोई बोल दे यार आपका Instagram channel बंद हो जाएगा, I'm like, कोई बात नहीं यार. I'll start doing some offline training or online training. I'll continue putting out the videos somewhere. Yeah.
So there are two parts to what you said, right? One, I understand, is the happiness part, which sort
Correct.
of keeps you going. But the other part is the monetary aspect.
Yes.
The most important aspect, where someone who wants to pursue a career in this, given that there is so much of proliferation of content across genres, right? The anime,
Yes.
right? The entertainment of movies,
Yes.
the dubbing of even YouTube videos that is now coming to India as well.
Yes.
so much is happening, but in terms of monetary compensation, does the happiness meet the monetary compensation? Let's talk about numbers and understand
Right.
if someone is viewing this and they see potential, because there is so much happening at the Wave Summit as well.
Yeah.
When there was a Netflix booth happening,
Yes.
people got the opportunity to sort of give their voice and talk
Yes.
about the potential of where dubbing can lead them.
Yes.
It sort of glimmers with that hope that potentially I could do something with this, but can I make a living out of this? Let's talk about that bit.
Sure, absolutely. Can I make a living out of this? Yes. Will it be difficult initially when I start? Yes. Will it take a couple of years? It might. All of these are things that, if somebody tells me, should I quit everything and start getting into voicing and voiceovers, and will I be able to? No, you can't quit everything and get into voiceovers. Please make sure that initially, at least, you have a steady income coming in, which is helping your family, which helps you build savings, and then start voicing on the side, start training on the side. There are many people who enter the industry now with maybe a course which is a month long, week long, 3-day long, and expect that the fourth day or the second week brings in work. That's not going to happen. There have been artists who are honing their skills for years and years and still are not satisfied with the kind of content that they're putting up, with the kind of grasp on the craft that they have. I suggest that at least do a 6-month to 1-year training on yourself. That could include theater, that could include language, that could include your voice. There are many things that you can do. And again, this doesn't have to be something that you need to invest heavily in. Content is available freely. आप किसी भी theatre company को पूछ लो, मैं backstage में help कर देता हूँ. Go there, enter their rehearsals, see how the voice exercises happen, join them if you can. A lot of voice artists put out a lot of content now, and I'm not just talking India. There are brilliant voice artists internationally whose content is freely available on YouTube, where you understand what approach they have. Now I understand the technology, the process might be different. But as an artist, when you're producing an emotion on the spot, there is a certain approach that every artist will have, and you can learn that approach, you can practice that approach. So, is it easy? No, it's not. It's like any other craft. If I tell you tomorrow, let's be a tabla maestro, it's never going to be easy. There will be countless hours of... It just seems, it's one of those fields which seems very easy because talking is something all of us do every day, and some of us are better at it. So it almost feels like I could just walk in and do what I do every day and this will click. It might not. Honestly, it can. I'm not saying there's no probability. Your voice might be really unique, or the way you're using it is really amazing to some ears, and they might be like, this is great. Let's start with this project.
Absolutely.
We'll get with the dubbing aspect of it slowly. You'll understand the sync slowly. But more often than not, it's going to be like, sure, we'll get in touch.
Yeah, those answers are brutal, man.
They are really
those
brutal.
Non-committal answers are difficult.
They are brutal. And let me tell you, I mean, even there is no stage in your career, say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line where it is, oh, you've been doing this for 10 years. Please come in and voice. Please come in and audition. We're still auditioning. And you could be auditioning with somebody who's just started 6 months ago.
This is such an important point to unpack, because I think... generally in other industries, the tenure that you spend in a certain business equals the experience, and that builds up on that.
Yes.
In the creative pursuits that we are in, there is a need to prove every single time, and you can't rest on your laurels. While there will be successes like the Ben 10, Anu Arjun, Bear Grylls, but to be able to sort of retrofit into a certain character, does it always need an audition? Does it always need you to put yourself out there constantly? How does someone approach this problem?
Isn't that, like for a lot of people, I think when you compare it with, say, a corporate job, it tends to bring in a certain amount of ease that if I'm here for the next 10 years, I will automatically get that respect, that compensation in terms of money, and all of those packages that come along with it will happen automatically. I just have to be here.
Yeah.
Creative fields don't let you do that. They don't let you sit still, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing what I was doing 10 years ago because it doesn't satisfy me. And most of these times when I'm training with people, and I always kind of end up saying, I hope to see you in a studio someday, and I genuinely do want to see them in a studio someday. But if you're, I also come with this approach and I tell them, if you're going to come for me, I'm going to be ready for you, and I'll make you work for it. And I want to do that because I want to improve myself to a place where I can be in the industry. Why? Again, at the core of it, because I enjoy this. I love doing this for a living. I'm one of those lucky people who goes happy, comes back happy, and again opens his home setup and starts recording lines at home. And it's fun. And so I will continue to do it as long as I can do it, to a degree that I think I'm still doing justice to the craft. The good part about the field is there is no beginning point, there is no end point. You can be a voice artist at 95 years of age. You can be a voice artist at 9 years of age. You can be a voice artist at 1 year of age. I mean, so that's a good point. But, oh my God, I'm 45. How do I? You can. I'm just 13. What do I? You can. Get, as long as you have the love for the craft, you understand that there is an aspect of language that you will have to work on. There is an aspect of emotion and, creativity that you will have to work on. You're in.
Yeah.
Success, how do you guarantee success in any field, be alone voice artist?
For me, this was very interesting to think about. I did my first project, which was Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
And that was a crowd dub.
Yeah.
The fact that I got to be in the studio with other people performing and learning who were far ahead of the curve, I think that in itself was a win for me.
Now, this is an interesting point because I'll tell you the other side of this. It is super exciting to do that. I've done crowd, I've done crowd in films like Salman Khan's Wanted and all, right? So I understand the value that crowd dubbing brings when you're sitting there with people who are more experienced and you can just sit back and see what they're doing. And because there's a kind of, the number of people there kind of gives you a lot of courage because you're not standing alone. Absolutely. It's not like the light is just on you. Yeah. There are many people and, you can just hide a little bit also and perform a little bit also. It's great comfort. It's a safe space. These seniors will give you tips. They'll tell you how to do things. They'll handhold you into it. It's like learning a craft with your siblings, elder siblings or something like that. It's great. However, there are artists who think crowd dubbing is below them.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
And so the experience that you had will not be the experience that many others will have. They'll think, I don't want to do this. I don't want to start from crowd dubbing. Why not? Why wouldn't you? Because in your head, you think the kind of craft that you learned in the past, whatever course that you've done and all that is
good enough to just put you
start me off with character voices. Yeah. They can't. There are so many things that you need to learn that you can't be taught in a 1 month course or even a 3-month course, whatever.
I think nothing beats real-time experience once you hit the microphone and you realize, oh my God, you've been standing wrong.
Yeah. You've been breathing wrong.
Breathing wrong, right? You can't put yourself into a place where you say you deserve a character just because you've done a course.
You
have to pay your dues.
Just because you sound great in a party when you recite that shairi and people are like, what a voice. You should be voicing professionally. It's not the same when you're doing it in front of the mic. It's not the same when you're doing it for 4 hours straight. It's not the same when you have to hold a certain voice over 3 seasons. It's not the same when you're screaming in animes. It will never be the same. It will not be the same when you're doing 200 plus hours of an audiobook. You cannot. Because saying that shairi in those 3 minutes in a party is not equivalent to working your throat for 200 plus hours over the next 2 months. It will never be the same. How do you build that? You learn that. You work with that. You slowly build your vocal stamina. I can't tell you, let's go run a 21 kilometer. When you've run, like I ran my fastest from my gate till my building yesterday and it was, nobody could beat me. And people told me you should be a professional. Yeah. Let's go. You can't. It's not possible.
So I think one of the important things that I always remember is that as a student of the craft, the learning never ends.
Never.
And I think I learn a lot from you as well through the conversations that we've had.
Very kind of you, yes.
I think most of the conversations that we've had has always been around the craft.
Yes.
And certainly the industry, but the craft, right?
Yes.
How can I sort of enunciate better? How can I learn better? Where can I read better?
Right.
What can I do to hone my language a little bit better?
Right.
I think it's about that extra edge.
Correct.
And it may not seem big in the scheme of things, but you're improving.
Yeah.
I think to me, that sort of was the way where I started competing less with other people and feeling less about myself.
Yeah.
The imposter syndrome, the competitive sort of spirit comes in and kicks in because when you see someone doing so many projects,
correct,
you feel that मैं नहीं कर रहा हूँ क्या?
It's, I think, a matter of shifting your perspective. Like for me, a lot of these people that I work with, my contemporaries, the moment I shift my focus from them being like competition because we are giving the same audition and to somebody that I can learn from as a senior, it changes everything. Like there's Meghna Irande, there's Rajesh Kawa, there's Shakti Singh ji, Mona Di, Viraj is there, Shanur, and there was certain aspects of all of their work that enamored me, and I would be like, how can I adapt that? Wow, Meghna can go from like 6 months to 90 years. Mona Di is voiced like half the film industry. Viraj so smooth. Shanur doesn't move an inch when he's expressing. And his character might be going up and down a roller coaster and you will feel that it's going up and down. But you look in the booth, he's just standing like that. He's sitting calmly and he's voicing like that. Raju, the kind of comedy timing he brings. So there were so many aspects of them that I would just be like, wow, this is superb. Yeah. And honestly, I've done a lot of that in the initial part. I would just sit in a studio and watch these guys come in and chatting about this, and I would stay there at night and be like, thoda chota koi character if you can give me and all that. And I've done all that. So I never looked at them as they are taking my work or I am going to take their work. It's such a sad way to look at things. There's a ton of work. Let me assure you, there was always a lot of work, and there's plenty more now with the onset of OTTs and all of that. It's a matter of how skilled are you to be able to be called by them. How much are you willing to start from this,
right? Like certainly one part is working on yourself as an artist.
Yeah.
But certainly the other part is that you need to be known by other people.
Honestly, not really, because like I said, for an audition, if you've been, for example, crowd dubbing in a certain house, right? And you've been doing it for a while, and after crowds, the natural progression would be they would call you for smaller characters because right. they understand that you're bringing
you fit somewhere.
Yeah, you're bringing a certain extempo, you're doing a lot of improvisation, and they love what you're doing. And when that thing happens, when you've done an X amount of crowd and then you've done an X amount of characters, there is now a hero that is required that matches your profile. They will call you to audition. For them, it's great to work with a fresh voice. They will call me maybe, or they'll call maybe a Shanur or a Ankur. They'll call all of us. They'll call a Viraj, but they will call you. And in that audition, when those blind auditions go to somebody who's listening,
correct. They don't know who the person is.
I like this voice.
Yeah.
And you're in. And you've started, and that's how all of us have started. We were never. How else would you start? I'm a nobody from I've come from outside. I didn't have any contacts here, but I am voicing and I am where I am, which means there is a process from which you can get here. It's not a no entry. It's not a you have to know somebody. It's not a paisa hai to hi hoga. It's not a social media pe numbers hai to hi hoga. It's a matter of working, staying visible, making them understand that you're showing improvement, making them understand that the first day you came versus today, there's a stark difference in the way you're performing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, just call him, nah, he's good or she's good. Let's give them a shot. And that shot, when it comes though, are you ready when that happens?
Yeah.
That's what will decide.
So for me, when I made the first cut into the studio,
right,
I remember making maybe $1,500, $2,000 for the crowd.
Yeah.
And I was 8 hours in the studio.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I doing? Because one part was loving the work.
Right.
Certainly the other part was like, is this going to be sustainable? $2,000 for 8 hours, and then there are other people making maybe much more. But I did not know it then. But I think along the years, you realize that there are people making significantly more.
Yeah.
Let's shed some light on what are the numbers looking like when you do a character, when you do, let's say, a major part in a movie or an OTT series, or let's say a TVC. What does that look like typically?
It looks really, really vague, honestly speaking, because there is no standardized rate card, so to say. Most artists charge on basis of their experience. Now, obviously, there will be like a margin for which studios have. And then depending on how experienced the artist is and where they fit in the margin, you are either told that the budget is there and you're in, or sorry, doesn't work out because this is the amount of budget that we have. Again, the amount of budget, if I say that it's a film, it's going to be this much, it doesn't work like that. Films for television will have a different budget, films for OTTs will have a separate one, films for theatre will have a separate one. So as a voice artist who started off, maybe say, let's talk about dubbing for South films into Hindi, regional films into Hindi. As a hero, when you're just beginning or you're doing really small films, people will pay you maybe 5,000, they'll pay you 10, they'll probably pay you 15 to 20. Then when you garner a certain amount of experience, again, even if you've garnered a certain amount of experience, are you asking for more or not is a huge question, because a lot of artists don't want to spoil this equation of where the work is coming in by asking for their work. Or raising their prices. So even if you know that you have a better value addition to the project, you will not ask for more with the fear that work might stop coming in. That's where a certain group of artists get separated from the lot. Now these artists do not worry if the work stops. These artists do. So they will cap themselves at a certain price, even though they've had tremendous experience.
But isn't it also more from the space that maybe there are only X number of studios available in the market and there is only Y amount of work? This could be playing into the head.
There are X number of studios, there are only Y number of projects available, but now, like I said, with the advent of social media where people are saying, why not this artist for this voice? When that is happening, it's not just being read by you and your friends, it's being read by studios. Everybody understands that equation now. And in a day and age where regional films, when they're released in Hindi, make huge amounts of money, which are comparable to certain Bollywood releases at that point in time, it's a very different game now, right? So there are studios that are willing to cast certain artists for a certain amount of money. And you need to then decide what happens if I don't get work for the next 3 months.
But is there an upper range? Because 20K would still feel people.
So 20K would be
so
like a, yeah, it is lesser. There is no, honestly speaking, there is no upper range.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of this field.
We will not talk about the mainstream actors who are getting projects, who run into
mainstream actors. Let's not even get into
Correct.
that. That's maybe 10 times what a voice artist pays, maybe 100 times sometimes if there's A-lister actors or whatever that are voicing for a certain project. But with voice artists, they can go all the way maybe 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, depending on how big the project is.
For a movie or
for
a
movie?
series? Okay.
For a movie. For a series, it will generally be, per episode basis. Again, that per episode basis, if you're doing like characters, it might be 500 rupees, it might be 750 rupees an episode, might be 1,000, 2,500, all the way maybe 5,000, 7,000. Again, I'm talking about animation episodes.
Okay.
If you're talking, say, stuff like Discovery and, other things like that, they might start off maybe 3,000, maybe go to 5. The host might get paid 8, 10, 12, depending on how much talking is happening. Is there sync, no sync? A lot of small factors come into play. And then you kind of, you continue with a certain host or a certain character. You can then charge for the sequels that are coming, depending on how popular the show is getting. If you're charging for, like, for example, for me, when there's a South to Hindi film, I charge also basis of A, where it is going to be released, B, what is the star, how big or small. If it's a rank newcomer, I don't want to charge what I would charge for an Allu Arjun. It makes no sense. I'll be fair to you as well as the producer.
True.
You be fair to me when we're talking, semantics. So it's like that. There are so many factors that come into play when the money aspect comes in. But yeah, so like it starts from 500 maybe for a series, and it can go all the way to 5,000 for an animated episode when you're doing the lead. But yeah, there might be places which are only paying you 300. But they're saying, let's do 10 episodes in one go. So they're compensating like that. The volume.
Right.
So the good part is there is no cap. There is no organization that says, no, you can't charge more than 10,000 for a film. Aisa kuch nahi hai.
So let's say typically if it's 5 lakh a project.
Correct.
And what's the turnaround time that they look at? Like 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, what's the...
So for a film, generally, studios can wrap up films anywhere between 2 weeks to a month. Depending on how big the film is and how much rework and how much budgeting is happening, and how much rewriting is happening sometimes. Films can go all the way to month and a half for like really big projects, like a Deadpool and Wolverine, for example. Or if it's a smallish film for OTTs, generally, the casting and the dubbing and everything gets wrapped up. The writing might take a separate 2-3 weeks of time. The dubbing and everything might get wrapped up in 2 weeks or maximum 3 to 4 weeks at the most. 3 to 4 weeks is like a project has gone too far ahead. 2 weeks is what generally people who try to wrap it up in. And your work would be for like a day, a couple of hours a day, or maybe if you're doing the lead and the lead has spoken a lot, maybe 2 days.
So the 2 weeks is a studio time?
Studio time.
Okay.
As an artist, you will only be called for a couple of hours. And that's again where that aspect of why would I call this artist? Because this artist is great at reading and improvising and emoting and understanding direction, and they take way lesser time than casting this artist. So in a crunch project, I would prefer this artist. So there are those aspects also that. So the more you keep working on your skill in terms of reading, in terms of how you're taking direction, how much you can improvise a character, the more chances of you getting.
You were saying about Deadpool, by the way.
Yeah, so Deadpool generally, that film took me about say 9 to 12 hours of total dubbing time by going and coming and whatever it was, because there were corrections and there were edits, and because it's a film like Deadpool, you do a lot of revision in terms of dialogue and all of that. But there are films which get wrapped up in say 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. Yeah, so it's like that. Again, you calculate that as well. I mean, and then there are other aspects, like there's an audiobook, for example. That's a completely different ball game. How much are they paying per hour of recorded output, and then how many hours are you doing it? Is that per hour okay with you? Why is it not okay? No, we can pay you 3,000. Okay, that's great. I've never worked with this. Let me try start somewhere. 3,000 sounds nice. Oh, I've talked to few voice artists 6 months down the line, and I've understood 3,000 is really, really poor payment. I should charge 5, but we only pay 3. Why should we pay you 5? At that point, when that question is asked of you for a film or for an audiobook or for an ad, why should I pay you this much when I can get this work done in this much? That answer is what very important to kind of start. The point where you say no, you need to have a reason for saying that no. A lot of people are going to get upset when you start saying no once you work for a certain amount of money. Like I said, that bracket where some artists will stop because they want the work to continue, doesn't matter the money and all of that, where versus these artists who are willing to sacrifice a little bit of work to charge higher. Why they are called, or when they are called, and why they are saying no, all those reasons need to be ready with you. You need to be able to say that to yourself.
So this is the artist side.
Yeah.
Right. Now that you also are a creator, there are other deals that come into your sort of mix. Promotional stuff, let's say PlayStation.
Right.
Maybe doing Japanese anime stuff.
Right.
And collabs have happened on that front as well.
Correct.
For you. What do these deals typically look like?
Most of these deals, so for example, with PlayStation, it's a different sort of a thing. But the aspect that you were discussing ahead before, that's really interesting, because I'll bring it up again, is if there are other things that I'm doing, how will I put them on my page? I've always been an avid gamer. I've loved gaming. I've been a huge fan of anime and Japanese culture, and wanting to go there for that trip of a lifetime kind of a thing. Now these are these aspects that are converting into deals which are aligning
with who you
organically with who I am as a person outside of being a voice artist, but it's still connected to my voice, right? So with PlayStation, the gaming aspect has come in. How did it come in? Because I started dubbing for some gaming videos, because I really want the gaming industry to look up at the Indian voicing industry and start dubbing games in Hindi. And there are steps that I've taken in the past for it. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But now with Detective Dotson coming out, hopefully there's a new leaf that has turned over, and work will come to the industry like that. But so now I'm just combining gaming, the joy of gaming with the joy of voicing. So that's why PlayStation said he loves gaming. He does voice work, and we have gaming characters and stuff. So let's do some kind of alignment with that.
It's interesting. I think all of this is an offshoot of who you are.
Yes, it all stems from being a voice artist.
And I think also, yes, certainly that's the central craft.
Yeah.
But I think all your interests are tying in to what you
They are now tying in. Yeah, I would have never. So that's another thing that I'm thankful to social media for. That I would have never made those connections. Or those connections I would have never assumed would bring me money. Gaming all my life has only cost me money and cost family and friends a lot of headache. So I never thought it would bring me money.
Some use here.
Yeah, so it was a very emotional day for me when PlayStation sent a PlayStation home for me to play. It was one of those, oh, my life has come full circle kind of thing. But yeah, in a similar way with Japanese anime and a lot of connect that I had, we've done a lot of tours with bringing VTubing to India via, there's this company called Wakone who's trying to bring VTubing to India, and we did a lot of tours across India. And we realized that so many anime fans in so many towns, and they're traveling all the way for these anime conventions. And for a long time, India had a dearth of being able to watch anime legally. It was not there.
Yeah.
And now if you look around, it's happening pretty much everywhere. So, there are these aspects of me outside of voicing that are getting tied in with voicing. So the deals are, I only take them when that can be justified. Otherwise, I am not a creator in the truest sense, at least not a social media content creator, right? So if they're giving me a certain deal and if I can't be like that in real life, it's going to look really fake. So if I'm doing like a review of an anime for a Crunchyroll, or maybe if I'm doing like watching a Diwali ad and commenting on it for Zomato and stuff like that, so those kind of deals, when they happened, I try to understand what I could do in it, and would they get the kind of interaction or the kind of reach that they were looking for from it, and it happened. And so those deals happened organically. It's not like I went out of my way to get them. I don't even know how that works. But like I said, honestly, the social media thing it's just bringing a lot of other things to me.
But what do numbers look like in these sort of ads?
So depending on, so that is very different from voicing, because there a lot of these social media creators have sort of a rough rate card, so to say, which, because there's a very standard metric called your followers and your engagement percentage and all of that. So depending on your followers, it can go anywhere from, putting out a story or a post for maybe 10,000-15,000 rupees, all the way to 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. People charge upwards of 20 lakhs and all, depending on how many million followers they have. So it's just bonus income, not for if you're like a completely a social media creator, then that's your income. Yeah, but if you're doing something else and then this happens organically, it's a bonus income.
What's your max you made on a deal?
So the max maybe I've made on a deal might be say 1.2 to 1.5 lakhs.
And what was the output that was expected?
Just like a story and a reel. So the reel was content organically done with them, and an additional story, I think, and it was quite amazing, because all of us at home also, we were like, really, how is this?
How is this even possible?
Yeah, what? Because when honestly speaking, most of us when we come from, like, I've worked in call centers, I've worked in a lot of different setups, and what happens generally is we tend to, these many hours, this much money.
Talk about it. Yeah.
That completely goes bonkers when you're getting into something like voicing or something. Like when I'll do an ad and I'll be in the studio for 10 minutes and I'll make how much? Wow. But it'll take an X amount of work to get to that place.
So I think that's the part that people often forget, because it's a very high price to pay.
Yeah.
The mental health, the numbers that fall.
Yes.
Very high price to pay if that is the end output. But I think in your case, because you're a performer first, and these are, sweet chump change.
I mean, these are just perks that are coming my way, and the ability to be able to say no to things that I'm not comfortable. Like, as a social media creator, if you cross a certain number, you will start getting all these these gaming apps or gambling apps or whatever, and they are all left, right, and center asking you and throwing a lot of money in your direction. But the ability to say no is, I really value that. I'm glad I'm in a place where I can always fall back on my voicing and not be like, there is no money and I need to be able to sell anything that's coming my way. I don't want to do that. I've always been very clear of that on my social media front. Also in terms of followers, I don't want to push something that will get me followers. The get me part was never there. It's still not there. And so, I think there was a time when like a large sweep of followers happened, and I was at some 420 or 430 or something, and now it's some 390 or something like that. And I'm like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Even if there were 30,000 people or whatever, 3,000 people, and they were still asking me these questions, I would still be putting out these videos, because I'm putting them out because I know that there are a lot of people that I run into when I visit other towns, or when I'm running into a studio and somebody like, that video that you put out, I had that question also and it really helped me. I'm like, done, my day is done.
Amazing. I think a lot of this also sort of circles back in my head that the opportunities look as if there are so many happening, which I understand they are. The artificial intelligence has made the access to voices so much easier.
Yeah.
Is dubbing taking a hit because of that? Is it more corporate voiceovers? Like, what segment is being hit the most because of this?
So I mean, let's not lie to ourselves. It is here. It's taking work. About three and a half years ago, I tried softwares on the internet when I'd heard about them. I think it was called Spichello or something like that. At that point in time, I'd bought a subscription or outright bought the software for some money and decided to test it, because it was the thing there abroad that time. And it was quite effective for a corporate voiceover. It did its job even 3.5 years ago. Now it's an animal. It's doing its own thing. It's evolving, and it's evolving at the blink of an eye. So yes, it has pretty much started taking away work from voice artists. a lot of voice artists who specialized in corporate voiceovers, for example, where not a lot of emotional delivery, but a lot of informative and clear delivery is required is directly hampered now. The number of projects that they're doing has gone down significantly. It is coming to dubbing, but it's coming to dubbing in a very different way right now. It's not outright replacing artists, but it's doing something differently. So a lot of regional actors now think that because AI exists and because our voice can be then applied into other languages, why not let people from other belts of India listen to our original voice? So a voice artist will dub a film, and then a South actor's voice or a regional actor's voice will be used as a skin to be placed on this, and so it will sound like the original actor, but the performance will be of a region. So they don't have to learn the language; they just have to give a sample of this. So it's like skin is added to the performance.
Did you see the YouTube giving the option of switching into any
that
language?
That is also started.
No intervention needed whatsoever. Just seamlessly changes languages.
Correct. Those are aspects that are troubling, but it's something that we have an association of voice artists who's trying to fight this legally, understand the aspects that of how it's going to affect voice artists. There are several producers who also united with the artists to take a stand to say that we will not promote AI. We will use artists organically and get the best performance out.
I don't know. I always have this thought. This is a very ethical, moral approach.
Yeah.
The business side may not look on the side of just understanding what is good for other people. They would look at what is their P&L, their balance sheet sort of supporting. I can be completely wrong, but I think the way sort of things develop in the ecosystem of pure profit, what can I do maximum at the minimum cost?
Correct.
Right. So that would be let's celebrate.
That'll be your So that's where you start from.
Exactly.
Any business, right?
So a business would have a moral grounding, saying that we support artists. But then what is stopping the same business from saying that, hey, you know what, let's restructure?
So there needs to be something stopping them, and that something has to be an intervention from the government, so to say, which has happened in a lot of other countries. There are countries which say if you're using an artist's voice or their AI model, you still pay the artist. What you gain is time. So you can say instead of finishing the project in an X amount of hours, you finish it in X amount of minutes and you gain time, and that's your profit. But the money still has to go to the artist. Even if the artist does not exist and you've taken their voice sample, pay it to their family, their trust, or their estate, or whatever it is, right? But that's still not happening in India. We are trying to push for that. The only way that the rights of the artist will be preserved is if there is government intervention, because other than that, this formula of gaining the most without putting in and by putting in the least is going to be applied everywhere. Also, to get to that place where their government sat up and took notice, they went through there were strikes that happened, the industry almost shut down. Yeah. And are artists here willing to let go of their work for that amount of time? That's the most
important part,
And that's a very personal thing, right? My family, my responsibilities, how many days can I let go of work is critical. But when you compare it to you're going to lose work forever, then it kind of, it's a very different picture. But honestly, when I think offline also we'd had this conversation, and I told you, on the one hand, where AI is entering the industry and taking over certain roles of voice artists, there are newer things that keep happening in the industry. Like I said, gaming will come in. Anime has started again big time. There are tiny new things that have popped up, like audio description tracks that I was talking about. Micro dramas are coming in, vertical videos, and
mini dramas,
1.5 minute episodes essentially for social media. So there's a lot of new work that is coming in the industry, and so the point is, as an artist, you will, like we talked about, have to adapt, you will have to upskill, you will have to end up doing that in order to make sure that you stay in this lane for the longest amount of time. You cannot stop technology. We've never been able to, we will not be able to. And you cannot stop people from taking a call that profits them, unless it's encroaching on your rights. And so you can do the only thing that you can do, which is voice better. And please do that. I mean, we'll have to, as artists, to survive, we will have to be better.
So, while the aspect of obviously becoming better at your craft is important, the other side is also understanding the business.
Yes.
You can't just be like a very passionate voice artist doing everything left, right, center, but you're finding I'm not making money.
Not making money, I'm not getting called.
Getting called.
Yeah.
Right. For someone who's starting new in the ecosystem today, what are some things that you would advise to a newbie?
The same thing that I had told myself when I started off is don't say no. At least in the beginning, when any opportunity comes your way, go say yes and get it done. Learn it. Because there are so many things to this industry that cannot be taught unless you experience it firsthand. If somebody says audiobook, it might take 10 hours to record, 15 hours, you've never done it. Say yes, get into it, learn it. Corporate voiceovers have this certain kind of feel. Have you ever tried it? No, I have not. Would you be willing to give me a chance? Yeah, sure, come, we'll try. Yes, okay, go. Films, this, that, anything that comes your way, pick it up. The more diverse your usage of voice is, the more income streams you're creating for yourself. If I'm only going to stick to corporate voiceovers, now I'm in jeopardy, right? However, then I also do audiobooks. I also do, web series, dubbing, or whatever. So there are other things that I do. Sure, there is always some work that is going to happen everywhere. Make sure that you're in everything that requires a voice, or you can do everything that requires a voice. And there is a certain way to learn it. It comes with practice. You will understand that you cannot apply your documentary voice to an animation. You cannot apply your animation to a film. You cannot apply your film to an audiobook. There are changes in your voice, in your pattern, in the way you speak that you will have to bring, but learn those. If you enjoy voicing, you want to stay in this for a longer time, you will have to expand.
So that is one aspect.
Yeah.
What about social media? What about making demo reels? What about
it's uncomfortable for some people. It almost feels like, why do I have to do this for some people? There are people that I've spoken to that say, I don't understand it. I don't want to get into it. It's how I want to explain to my mother that she can use the computer a certain way, but she's like, I'm done. I don't want to do it now. But when I tell her that if you use it a certain way like this, you might be able to pull this book from the internet and read it, or you might do this, or something that will get you to do something that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And it's you do it 3 times, the 4th time it'll be muscle memory. Just do it. Just start. Social media will bring you a lot of work. If not even work, it'll connect you with people who will tell you what a great job you've been doing over the years, who will appreciate scenes and aspects from your career that you've forgotten. And if nothing else, at the end of the day, if somebody tells me 12 years ago I had done a series and it really left a huge impact on their lives, for me on that day when I'm completely down and I'm thinking AI is taking over my life and I'm ruined as a voice artist, when somebody says that, I'll know that I'm on the right path and I need to just continue doing this. So that 10 years later, somebody else tells me that you were still doing it, and I thank you for whatever you created. That is why be on social media. It's not just that you will get work, which I'm sure you can, but at least to hear that word that says, you know what, you've inspired me to come in this industry. That's huge. You've inspired somebody to do something. Wow.
Yeah, that's a big deal to hear. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. A lot of times when you hear that people admire you for your work, what are the things that stand out for you? Is it Ben 10? Is it Allu Arjun? What do people talk about the most?
So Ben 10, I generally tell people that it's been the past 2-3 years that there's been this huge love for Ben 10 that has come back in my life, which was not there before that. It was always there in bits and pieces, but this last 3 years have been like a wave. And I realized that when I'm speaking to these people, they're all telling me, we used to come back from tuitions, we used to come back from school, we used to, just before starting our college. So I know that now all those people who are watching it at that stage of their lives have now gotten on social media or have now kind of accessed, and they've found this viral video of Ben 10 or something like that. And they're all kind of, whenever they're meeting me, they're all telling me about this. And so that happens, that, you might have done something. And for me, I was always super happy about Ben 10 because it was a project where I did, 10, 11 voices. And for me, it was a highlight of my career, right? But now that it's suddenly everybody's kind of talking about it, I'm like, what is happening? And then I realized, there's this full generation that's now on social media that are now connecting, and they're saying that this is, or Deadpool, or it could be South to Hindi films, and that somebody really watches, and then when they find out, or some video that runs by where somebody's saying this is the voice of Allu Arjun, or that viral video or a meme that is happening, then I get those messages saying I watched this and I didn't know, then there is this film also and that's connected to you. It makes me immensely happy, honestly speaking. The other scary aspect of it is when people say I want to be like you, and I've I've left my house, or so I've had a couple of those, and that really scares me. Those are the points where I think what I'm putting out as a message, how I'm presenting myself, what kind of a voice artist and human I am, now matters. Not that I was kind of morally corrupt earlier to a huge degree or something like that. But when somebody says they've left their home and they've come to Mumbai because they wanted to be, or because they wanted to meet, or because they wanted to turn into a voice artist because they followed your work, that kind of, it's
overwhelming.
It's a lot.
A lot of pressure to handle.
Then I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? Are you working? And what? Yeah, there's rent, and so I'm also doing this, I'm also doing that. I'm like, I really wish that work comes your way, and everything. Which is why I made it very clear that there is no, let me leave everything and come into this, and please don't do that. Don't do that.
Which has been your toughest project? That if you could maybe think of like 2-3 projects that you could think of.
The one project that I always consider to be the toughest, which was a huge turning point, was Dragon Ball Z, the film, which was my first cast as a hero lead, and where halfway after the film started, and this is an example I've given several times before, is when I used to do a lot of home shopping commercials at that point in time. So that tone was something. क्या आप अपनी जिंदगी से परेशान हैं? So that tone was kind of fit, and when I was saying dialogues, then those dialogues started coming out like that, I think, and I stopped midway in the film, and I was told that what, this is not working out, and I had like little tears in my eyes, and they're like, but because you're here, let's just do a friend of the heroes or something like that. And so I did, and I went back and I questioned myself, and I said, it's been such a long journey. When you finally get that chance and you're not able to convert it, what is even the point? What are you doing here? I really genuinely liked voicing, and so I said, let me just figure out what is it that I could have done then, or what is happening. And then this revelation of you need to unlearn that pattern and build a new pattern every single project came upon. Worked on it for a bit, and eventually, I did a lot of my lead projects there. So that was a very crucial aspect of my career, I think. And then obviously the first lead that was offered to me was Ryan Reynolds for Green Lantern. Yeah. Ryan heavily regrets doing that film, but for me it was there was so much on my shoulder at that point in time, when a lot of mental work was happening when I was delivering every single line, because I wanted to be make sure that nothing is there to kind of where they can say that no, we shouldn't have gotten this guy. So those are two projects, I think, that they were mentally quite a challenge to deal with, because like you said, when you're working in a certain company after 4 years, ye promotion to hona hi hai, this is going to, and when that didn't happen, I was like, oh my God. And you have to go back to the drawing boards and, figure out everything. It kind of shook me a little bit.
You mentioned a couple of people. I think it's so important to have correct dubbing directors.
Oh, yes.
I think they sort of shape
Absolutely.
how your output will be.
Absolutely. There are so many in the industry that are wonderful, that have kind of, brought out the performance from within me, who've helped me see how to do a certain line with a different perspective. Like there are a lot of these directors, like there's when Rajshri directs sometimes also, who perform the line for you. And when you're a newcomer, or when you just been in the industry for a little bit, when you're seeing somebody else say that line in a different aspect, then it's amazing. Just like there are average voice artists and there are above average voice artists, there are average directors and there are above average directors. The average directors will tell you that you can do it, it'll be better, just try one more and all of that. The above average ones will go out of their way to explain to you why they are asking you for a take. Absolutely. What did you do that could have been better? And when these elements all come together with amazing writers and engineers, then that's a project that stands out. Yeah, that which is why there are certain, it's not like all dubbing projects are equally criticized or all dubbing projects are equally praised. There's a reason for it.
I remember, because I think I was doing this IC 814.
Yeah.
And Simran was on the project. my line was literally saying heads down, heads down, and she went on correcting till the time I got that note right. It was just one word.
Right.
But I think the patience that a director has,
Correct.
and they instill in you that you got the character right.
Yeah.
That's why we've casted you.
Yeah.
So let's get the tonality also right. Let's get the delivery also right.
Correct.
Patience is such an important thing.
It's very, very important, and the ability to be able to take direction and give direction. Again, it's almost akin to taking and giving respect. Always understand that the engineers, the directors are all trying to enhance the project with you. They are not there to find your mistakes or criticize you to a point that the project looks bad. The project looks bad, they look bad. They are all there so that the project looks best and we get 10 more projects like that. So never take it wrong when you're getting that direction from them. And yeah, that you need to have a little more respect for the engineers and directors and writers. Again, these are aspects that come to you when you start doing work in them. So I think a lot of the industry should have a way where artists get an access into how a director works or how a writer works or how an engineer works. I hope that happens someday and we get access to it.
I'm now very excited. Now we've got to play some voices. And the line that we'll say is that thank you for sitting with me in this episode of First Row.
Okay.
So now we'll go with whatever voices that you want to play with. Give like a sort of an intimation what voices is the Bent End voice or the delivery is.
I'll try it in Ben's voice. Thank you मेरे साथ बैठने के लिए फर्स्ट रो के फर्स्ट एपिसोड में maybe like a humongous or which is मेरे साथ फर्स्ट रो में बैठने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया maybe a Deadpool हार्दिक ने बुलाया पानी पिलाया खाना नहीं खिलाया यार मुझे मजा नहीं आया बट अगली बार आऊंगा खाना खा के जाऊंगा फर्स्ट रो में मेरे साथ बैठने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मे बी एन अल्लू अर्जुन उसने बुलाया बहुत था पर मैं आज ही आया हूं कहता है दूसरे एपिसोड में बुलाएगा मैंने कहा नहीं पहले मैं आऊंगा बैठ के जाऊंगा something like that.
Love it, man. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure chatting
pleasure.
about
Thanks
art,
a lot,
business,
man.
and certainly performance as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love, like I said before, I love the aspect that you bring to a certain discussion. There are many new points and nuanced details that you talk about that help me also explore and introspect a little bit about my industry as well. So thank you so much for having me on this series and all the best for future episodes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.